Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is
Pyrotechnics, singular or plural in construction, the art of making or the manufacture and use of fireworks, a display of fireworks, a spectacular display as of extreme virtuosity.
Yeah.
So we're a week late with these.
Yeah, just a little bit. We missed the mark.
Yeah, actually we're 2 weeks late because we're recording a week after 4th of July, and it's going to go up a week after that. So
That's a good point. But in Utah, where I am right now, we actually have a regional holiday on the 24th of July. We call it Pioneer Day, and we get to light off fireworks then too. So
again,
don't
wow.
worry, I have fireworks in my future.
That's good. So you and maybe, how many listeners do we have from Utah?
Me.
There we go. Perfect.
Just one.
So this goes out to you, Rob.
Thank you.
So I'll tell you what I have is I have a couple.
I want to hear it.
So I had a couple little things and settled on one big one. A little thing I thought was fireworks versus gunshots and not knowing the difference in high crime areas.
Oh, that is frightening.
Yes. And I think of Camden, New Jersey, which is right around the corner from here, which is really bad city. It was worse than the country a couple years in a row. And usually on the 4th of July, the town is in flames. Like they just set it on fire. Hasn't happened in a couple of years, but it used to. The other thing that I wrote down was timing is interesting with fireworks because they cannot start till sunset. And there's this whole grand finale thing that everyone gets worked up over. So I kind of went with that. And I went with this is where I kind of went deep into it, was the idea for I guess solo, but like a roll and write game that is essentially Star Wars Queen's Gambit, but fireworks. And what I mean by that is you're fighting a war on multiple fronts by running this fireworks show. And I have a couple ideas on how it could work with this whole little roll and write thing. And that's just kind of where it led because you get this pretty picture in the end. And that's kind of what I wanted. But the war on three fronts is you've got the music entertainment that kind of starts like an hour before, that you're kind of managing that and making sure it's keeping people excited. You've got the ground show. At least around here, we get this little ditzy ground show that kind of keeps you going. Some little things that are popping up on the ground, and then you've got the main event, which are the fireworks. But the cool thing about fireworks is that they cannot start until it's dark enough. You kind of don't want them to start until there's enough people there, and at some point you need to cut it off and be like, we're blowing up everything else. And we're done. So the timing of that, when do we go to the blow up everything else, is really interesting to me because I've been to fireworks displays where everybody goes home mad and they're like, well, that was too short, or it was like, well, that was too long, and there's all these different
Interesting.
So just trying to figure out when to fire off everything. And I thought with roll and write, this is what I thought was kind of neat. I don't know if it's been done. Is for example, like rolling 2 dice, and you can use. The one thing I thought was both numbers or any number in between them. So a 1 and a 6, you can use both of them or any number essentially, but 1s and 6s might be really weak, and then the middle numbers are stronger. So I was trying to think of something along those lines. But what they would do is they would give you actions, and then with your actions, what you can do is keep the music going, play a hit, which would keep people, the whole idea is keeping the mood of the people. Playing a hit song, doing the ground show, and then lining up your fireworks is the other thing you're doing, because they're not going off the whole time. You're just lining them up, and eventually they're going to start firing off. So you're sort of building this line of them, and then once you pull that trigger, they start going, and eventually you're going to hit that grand finale. So that's all I got. But the idea I had was all these dots on a page, and you're like kind of filling in the airspace with different colors, and you don't want to overlap. And the one thing that I thought was cool was having people turn their neck. So going from the far left to the far right is like a big moment when people like oohs and ahs and all that stuff. That's all I got.
That sounds dope.
Yeah,
I'm always up for a roll and write.
I know, it's an easy way out, kind of. for a designer at least.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good marketplace for those right now.
Solo and roll and write there's nothing easier to test.
That's a good point. Well, let me hit you with what I got. I mean, I like fireworks a lot, but I don't know. Like, I feel like, Hanabi is anything but like connected to firework theme, that kind of stuff. And then there's a one recently that Renegade was releasing where you actually throw a die into a pile of hexagons, and they kind of like explode and jump. And that's
do they
super
really?
cool. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they move?
Yeah, and so you pick up all the tiles that flipped over. So it's like Pogs, where you throw this giant die into this just pile of chips, and then they flip over, and then you make fireworks displays on your own little personal board, which I think is pretty cool. But I went specifically with what pyrotechnics are used in, but not specifically fireworks. So I was thinking like explosions, and I was thinking about making movies where you have a series of stunts that you need to pull off, flipping cars, helicopter explosions, destroying a building, all that kind of stuff. Just like you have these set pieces that you need to pull off at a certain amount of time. Have you played Castell?
I've seen it. I haven't played it. Looks excellent.
So Castell has a really cool thing where it has the list of events all the way up to from the beginning to the end of the game. So on any single turn, you know what you're preparing for. And you know what you're preparing for 15 turns from now. I don't think it actually goes that far, but like you know what you are shooting for, and those are the events that you can get points in. You're doing other things, and you won't make it to all those events because you physically like have to be in the region that it's being held and all that kind of stuff. So Castell is really interesting in that, and so I want to be able to like what you're shooting for. Everything is out there. You're not relying on a certain mission to come up when you flip it over, and hopefully you have the right stuff. Like what you're shooting for. Yeah. It's up to you to get it, and so I want that to be like I love the setting. I think the setting would be really fun to work with, just like movie sets, and you have to talk to producers and they make changes and that can like shift events around. Like, oh, we don't have the actor injured themselves, and so they're not going to be ready for this stunt until later on. So you can push stuff off, just like kind of manipulating the schedule for these stunts. And then when you pull them off, they give you points, and you're super excited about it because everything went well and nobody got injured. And that could be like a problem if you don't have everything for a stunt. You can pull it off, but someone's going to get hurt. Yeah. Or something's going to go wrong, and that's going to push off things that'll hurt you in the long run. So that's what I had.
It makes me think of how Tom Cruise does his own stunts, and which is just the craziest thing of all time.
I am so excited for the new Mission Impossible movie.
Right?
He doing his own stunts is nuts.
Well, he busted his leg. Did you see this?
Yeah, and they kept that take in the film,
and they put that take in every trailer too.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So good.
So I know you. Just made me think of it. Are a fan of dexterity.
Yeah.
Have you seen the game Gravity Warfare?
No. No. Gravity Warfare is the one where it's like they're stacked on this kind of like toppling.
Yes.
Like, those balancing eagle things that you put on your finger? It's like a giant one of those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is a game that I have, an older game, I think it's German, called Bamboleo, that is the same thing, but it's a big disc, just a round disc, and you're removing things off of it, and the whole disc shifts. Gravity Warfare is similar, but it's got a lot more going on. And,
right.
Someone brought it up, and I know you're a big fan of dexterity. There aren't many of us, so just
yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, the fireworks throwing the die awesome. to the pile. I love it. I think it's great. It's a really good tie where it could just be like, oh, you flip over this many tiles and then you pick them and put them in your fireworks display.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're going to get a giant chunky wooden die and you're just going to toss it into this pile and then you get to pick from those.
That's one of the first things I did in my notebook was I drew a dot and then all the dots that surround it. Like that's to me, the firework is, sometimes there's a spread, sometimes there's a bang, but the one thing I did think of is like there's not a lot of innovation in fireworks. Like there's not much changing year after year.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, have you seen the smiley face ones?
I have not. So there's some.
They do a smiley face one, and then it's just bunkers because like it's the ones I've seen. Most of them are oriented the right way, so it's not like you see an upside down face.
Yeah, true.
It's that you see two eyes and then a mouth and then the circle surrounding it. So like, I don't know how they do that.
The most exciting fireworks here was when the top of the CVS caught on fire. When they were too low. It went into the woods, and they had to stop it because of fire trucks.
That's fun stuff.
Yep.
Well, do you have any more game ideas? It seemed like you had a lot in your head.
No, it was all that roll and write one. Just
all right.
A couple things with it. Just fighting that war on multiple fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's all I got.
I'm on board for that.
I had air, ground, and sound are my three fronts. Cool. All right. Well, I guess on to next week.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
Bye.